The village lay shrouded in a thick mist that clung to the hills and forests like a living breath from the past. Time here seemed tangled, held fast in the embrace of ancient stones and gnarled trees, whispering secrets long forgotten by the outside world. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and old wood smoke, and every narrow lane and crooked roof carried the weight of generations bound tightly by ritual and fear. Villagers moved quietly, their faces marked by the weariness of 1,000 cautious years, eyes alert for signs that might awaken the shadows of old curses that had seeped into the land like a slow poison. This was a place where the past never truly died. It lingered, watching, waiting. Among them was Anwen, a young woman whose heart was caught between duty and a restless yearning she barely understood. She moved with a quiet grace through the garden her late grandmother had tended, the soil beneath her fingers sacred and alive with the memories of those who had come before. Her eyes, dark and searching, held a weight beyond her years, a silent strength born of loyalty to family and village, yet shadowed by a growing unease. Though she honored the customs that shaped her world, a whisper inside her stirred, a longing for something beyond the familiar paths worn smooth by tradition. The garden was her refuge and her burden, a place where she felt the pull of both past and future. Her father stood as a pillar of the old ways, stern, unyielding, and fierce in his devotion to preserving the ancestral codes that had guided their people through centuries of storms and strife. His love for Anwen was as solid as the stones of the village church, yet it was spoken not in gentle words, but in the hard discipline of ritual and expectation. "The past is our shield," he would say, his voice rough with conviction. "To break from it is to invite ruin." In his eyes, the village's survival depended on loyalty to those ancient truths, and any question, any fear, was nothing more than dangerous folly. Their silent tension stretched between them like a rope pulled tight, hinting at storms yet to come. In the shadows of the village square, the elder watched with eyes like smoldering coals, his presence a reminder of the unseen threads that bound, the living to the dead. Known for his cryptic warnings and the slow weight of his gaze, he carried the village's deepest secrets and the heavy burden of unspoken curses. His words came in riddles, spoken at twilight beneath the ancient oak, stirring unease with tales of broken oaths and restless spirits. The villagers both revered and feared him, for he was the keeper of their hidden past, a living bridge between the realm of men and the shadowed mysteries that shaped their fate. One day, as Anwen worked the earth in her grandmother's garden, her hands struck something hard and cold beneath the soil. Pulling it free, she found a sealed letter, its parchment brittle and aged, bearing a strange crest unfamiliar to her eyes. The date upon it sent a shiver down her spine. 3 centuries in the future, a time beyond reckoning. As she broke the seal and read the words within, a terrible prophecy unfolded, a disaster that would shatter the village's fragile peace, a calamity woven into the very fabric of their land and history. Fear and disbelief warred within her, but beneath it all lay a burning sense of responsibility, a summons to face a fate that seemed impossible, yet undeniable. This letter was no mere relic. It was a call that would awaken the ancient shadows. Torn between the comfort of tradition and the terrifying knowledge of what might come, Anwen found herself standing at a crossroads. The village clung to its customs like a lifeline, wary of change, but the letter's warning was a blade cutting through the quiet. She wrestled with the question that haunted her nights. Could one soul alter the course of destiny, or were they all bound by the chains of fate and forgotten oaths? In the silence of the garden, surrounded by the whispers of ancestors and the turning of seasons, Anwen faced the heavy burden of forbidden knowledge, a burden that might save her people or doom them all. Anwen sat alone in the fading light of the evening, the letter clutched tightly in her hands. Her mind churned with the dark prophecy it bore, words that spoke of ruin and sorrow yet to come. How could a warning from centuries beyond be real? She had grown up believing in the village's steadfast traditions, where honor and loyalty were the shields against the world's cruelty. Yet now, doubt gnawed at her heart, shaking the very roots of her faith. "If what this letter says is true," she whispered to the silence, "how can I stand by while disaster unfolds?" Her thoughts battled like storm-tossed waves, between hope that the old ways might save them and fear that something far darker was creeping close. Her father's voice thundered through the small kitchen, breaking her reverie. "These tales," he spat, eyes fierce with the fire of conviction, "are nothing but folly. Superstition has no place here." His hand slammed against the wooden table, rattling the cups. "You would betray all our ancestors by spreading fear." His stern gaze locked on her, demanding obedience and silence. "The old ways are our fortress. Question them, and you invite ruin upon us all." Anwen felt the weight of generations pressing down, his words both a shield and a chain, binding her to a destiny she feared to face. "But father," she pleaded softly, "what if the future can be changed?" That night, she sought the village elder, a man cloaked in mystery and shadow, whose words often twisted like the roots of the ancient oaks. He listened without surprise, then spoke slowly, voice low and gravelly. "The garden you cherish is no simple patch of earth," he said, "but a place marked by ancient magic, curses born from broken oaths and dynastic quarrels long past." His eyes glinted with old knowledge. "The scars of those sins linger, like ghosts, feeding the land with restless shadows. The fate of this village is entwined with the sins of those who came before." Anwen shivered, the elder's riddles both frightening and compelling, hinting at powers she could barely grasp yet must confront. In the days that followed, the village seemed to hold its breath. Storms rose, fierce and sudden, their thunder rolling, like the drums of forgotten battles, shaking windows and tossing the branches of twisted trees. Villagers whispered of dark figures glimpsed at the edge of twilight, shadows moving just beyond the firelight, watching and waiting. Children clung close to their mothers, and even the bravest men felt a chill deeper than the autumn wind. Anwen's resolve hardened. The signs were clear. The unseen forces that threatened their home were stirring, and she could no longer hide behind silence or fear. Two strangers entered the tale like living symbols from a long-forgotten legend. One was a lone pilgrim, cloaked in humble garb, his eyes deep pools of sorrow and wisdom. He spoke little, but his presence carried the weight of penance and ancient rites. The other was a black wolf, its fur shimmering like midnight silk, prowling the borders of the forest with eyes that seemed almost human. The villagers whispered that the wolf was a cursed soul, bound to the village's hidden sins, a living omen of doom and retribution. These figures wove themselves into Anwen's thoughts, reminders of the cost of broken promises and the long journey toward redemption. Within her heart, a fierce struggle raged. Was justice a matter of accepting fate, or could courage break the chains of prophecy? "Must I bow to the will of shadows and let the village fall?" she asked the empty air. "Or can one soul rise, defy the curse, and turn the tide?" The question haunted her, a mirror of the ancient tales where heroes faced impossible choices between resignation and daring hope. It was the tension between accepting the inevitable and daring to rewrite history itself. As the village's fragile peace cracked, secrets long buried clawed their way into the light. Whispers revealed betrayals that had shattered family bonds, promises broken in silence, alliances undone by greed and fear. These hidden wounds pulsed beneath the surface, their poison seeping into the soil like the curse itself. The weight of ancestral sins pressed on Anwen's shoulders, binding the past and present in a web of pain and sorrow. Yet in this darkness, The possibility of forgiveness and healing glimmered faintly like the first star piercing a stormy sky. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with peril, but it was hers to walk, a journey woven with the threads of justice, redemption, and the hope that even the darkest fate could be challenged. The sky darkened suddenly, as if night had swallowed the day whole. A violent storm tore through the village, uprooting ancient oaks that had stood for centuries, their twisted roots torn from the earth with deafening crashes. Torrents of rain flooded the fields, washing away the crops that fed. The village and the howling wind seemed to carry voices from the past, angry, sorrowful, and relentless. The air grew thick with tension. Every villager felt it deep in their bones. Mothers clutched their children tighter, and men gripped tools and weapons with trembling hands. It was as if the very land rebelled, awakening the ancient curse long, whispered in fearful tales, turning nature itself into an echo of the village's spiritual unrest. In the shadows cast by flickering fires, ghostly figures began to appear, translucent forms drifting among the frightened villagers. Faces once forgotten returned in eerie visions, reminding all of sins buried too deep to remain hidden. One woman screamed softly at the sight of a shadowed knight, his eyes hollow with regret, while an old man whispered of broken promises and blood spilled in greed and betrayal. These spectral visitations revealed fragments of a haunted history, demanding the village face the consequences of past treacheries. The restless spirits urged the living to remember, to confront the weight of their ancestors' misdeeds before. Doom swallowed them all. With a heart pounding like a war drum, Anwin sought out the village elder beneath the crooked beams of the ancient hall. His eyes, sharp and clouded with age, met hers with grave seriousness. "Listen well," he began, his voice low and measured. "Centuries ago, a knight swore an oath to protect this land, a vow forged in honor and blood. Yet betrayal broke that sacred promise, shattering the knight's trust and calling down a curse upon us all." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle like a stone in the room. "This curse demands penance, a debt that binds our fates through generations. Until it is repaid, the land will suffer, and the darkness will never lift." Anwin felt the chill of truth seep into her bones. The curse was not just myth, but a living chain they all bore. From the edge of the forest, where shadows tangled, like secrets, the feared Black Wolf emerged. But this night, it did not merely prowl. Under the silver light of the moon, the beast began to shift and contort until, before the awestruck eyes of the villagers, it revealed its true form. A duke, cursed and trapped between worlds. His eyes shone with sorrow and guilt, a noble face etched with the torment of divine punishment. He carried the weight of his broken oath, a symbol of justice both cruel and necessary. The villagers saw in him their own struggle, a reminder that redemption demanded sacrifice and that balance could only be restored through acknowledgement of past sins. His tragic fate was a mirror reflecting the fragile dance between mercy and retribution. In the stillness that followed, Anwin stepped forward, her voice trembling but firm. "I will walk the path of the pilgrim," she declared, embracing penance to heal the wounds left by our forebears. She accepted the burden with a heart heavy yet resolute, knowing her sacrifice could mend the ancient rift and break the curse's hold. Around her, the village held its breath, witnessing the courage of one who dared to stand against despair. Her act became a beacon of hope, a fragile light in the dark, promising that even the deepest wounds might one day be healed. Slowly, the storm's fury began to ebb, the relentless winds softening to whispers, the rain turning to gentle mist. The village felt the first breath of fragile peace, and with it, a newfound sense of forgiveness stirred among the people. Anwin's confession and selflessness rippled through the hearts of the community, thawing old grudges and opening doors to justice not of vengeance, but of understanding. Together, they glimpsed a future where truth and mercy could grow, fragile yet real. As dawn broke, Painting the sky with hues of gold and rose, the village stood at a crossroads. The future remained uncertain, fragile as the morning dew. Yet, hope flickered bright in the hearts of those brave enough to seek change. The land, once cursed, now whispered of new beginnings. A story unwritten, waiting for the courage to shape its course. The village stirred awake beneath a pale morning sky, the heavy shadows of the curse retreating like a fading nightmare. Yet, even as sunlight touched the cracked walls and weathered stones, scars remained, silent witnesses to betrayal that had once sundered hearts and shattered trust. The air carried whispers of old sorrows, told in cautious voices near hearths, and under the ancient oaks where the echoes of broken promises still lingered. Though the curse's grip had loosened, its memory was etched deep into the land and the people, a solemn reminder of the heavy price paid for past sins. Anwen walked among the villagers with quiet purpose, no longer just a girl burdened by fate, but now the keeper of their stories and traditions. She transformed the neglected garden at the village's heart into a sacred space, where flowers bloomed like memories renewed. Here, the old wisdom met the promise of tomorrow as neighbors gathered to share tales of grief and healing, weaving their voices into a living tapestry. Anwen's gentle hands nurtured this sanctuary of remembrance, bridging past and future, reminding all that stories were the threads binding them together, stronger than any curse. Within the humble homes, fractured family ties began to mend, not through grand gestures but quiet acts of forgiveness and renewed trust. Around shared tables, where bread was broken and eyes met with softened glances, loyalty was rekindled like a slow, burning fire. Brothers and sisters who once turned away now reached out, their hands trembling yet sincere. Old wounds, once thought too deep to heal, began to close beneath the weight of newfound hope. The village's heart beat again, in gentle rhythms of reconciliation. From these humble acts, a powerful truth arose, a lesson carved in courage and forgiveness. The villagers learned that facing harsh truths, no matter how painful, held the key to breaking the darkest chains. But it was the willingness to forgive that truly lit the path to redemption, a light that warmed even the coldest corners of their souls. This moral settled like a balm over the community, binding hearts and spirits in a hopeful resolve that would endure beyond the shadow of the curse. As twilight softened the day's end, a single candle flickered softly in the sacred garden, its gentle flame dancing in the evening breeze. It stood as a symbol, an enduring beacon of hope and wisdom, that even amid lingering shadows, light persisted. The candle's glow whispered promises of renewal and the eternal journey between history and fate, a reminder that though the past shaped them, the future belonged to those brave enough to carry its flame forward.